Okay, hey everyone, hopefully you're in good mood for the situation. Because today I'm going to explain AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia, sort of leukemia that affects all people, not all young people. So this is just the CBC results. This is the blood film, which shows blast cells infiltrates the blood. So the first question, interpret the previous CBC. There's going to be anemia, which is going to be normocytic, normochromic. Leukocytosis, but in this case going to be from or of a myeloid type, myeloid blast cells. So leukocytosis. Leukocytosis doesn't mean that in every single WBCs that we have increase on, but rather just only the myeloid blast cells that we're gonna have. So with that being said, we mean by blood cells that it shifted to the left. So it is not at the right because they are immature cells, not mature ones. Thrombocytopenia, okay, which means decrease in the number of the platelets. The blood film pancytopenia with infiltration of peripheral blood by immature blast cells. So basically we have decrease in all the three parameters of the blood, the WBCs, RBCs, and the platelets. Even though when you notice other leukocytes, it's going to be decreased, but only the blast cells that is going to be increased. So yep, we have all are decreased unless the blast cells that are increased. Okay, so what are we gonna find in the CBC of acute myeloid? Oh my gosh. Acute myeloid leukemia. What we're gonna find? We're gonna find a anemia, which is going to be normocytic, normochromic. Anemia. Okay, let me just explain something here. Notice here, once you gotta produce cells or produce something, you're not gonna appreciate or concentrate on the other things. For example, if you have a cake factory, okay, or any sort of thing or business that you're gonna focus on something and you're gonna forget the other things. You're gonna forget about your family, your social life. So that what doesn't happen exactly on the bone marrow. So once the bone marrow only focused upon production of those best cells and forgot about how the other cells, which is platelet, RBCs, WBCs, that's what going to be resulted. We have sort of a decrease in all parameters unless the WBC, which is the myeloid form. Okay, so the CBC is going to have anemia, leukocytosis, especially in myeloid type, thrombocytopenia. The blood film shows pancytopenia and all of the cells with infiltration of peripheral blood by immature blast cells. So that makes sense. What is the provisional diagnosis of this case according to given CBC? Well, it is a case of acute leukemia. For further investigation, AML according to the age of the patient. So basically we've diagnosed that it's gonna be an acute leukemia because of the age of the patient, which is considered as an old age person. It's going to be AML, acute myeloid leukemia, which affects old people, right? Okay, where's the needed investigation to confirm the diagnosis? It's going to be bone marrow. First thing to be done, well, to confirm the diagnosis, because we just obtained the CBC, we obtained a lot of things, but we're gonna, once you have a leukemia and you're suspected a case of leukemia, you're gonna take a aspiration from the bone marrow. It's so necessary though. So bone marrow aspiration, perhaps to confirm the diagnosis, right? It's going to be the first thing on the leukemia. The other thing going to be myeloperoxidase stain to exclude leukemioid reaction and confirm the AML. So the leukemia reaction is one of the differential diagnoses of the AML. So that's why do we why did we stain by this stain? This stain is sort of special for AML. It sort of gives us an indication that we're dealing with the AML. Myeloperoxidase is so important to know this information. So, okay, myeloperoxidase is so specific for AML. We're staining those cells, and then once it gets positive, we're gonna know that there's a case of AML, unfortunately. Okay, and in the same case, to exclude leukemia reaction and confirm the AML, because just we wanted to exclude the other leukemias that are in the blood, right? So, and we wanted to confirm AML, so that makes sense. Because this is sort of like a gold standard test, gold standard stain for AML. Cytochemical stain immune phenotyping for type of leukemia. So those stains, cytochemical and immunophenotyping for type of leukemia. Well, once you have confirmed the diagnosis of AML, you're gonna want to know what is the type, exact type of it. So you're gonna go and do the those tests or those things, cytochemical stain or immune phenotyping for a type of the leukemia, right? Okay, so what are the investigation that we're gonna do? We're gonna do it at first place, the bone marrow aspiration to confirm the diagnosis, because this is the first line of the diagnosis to diagnose such cases. Then myeloperoxidase stain to exclude leukemia reaction and confirm AML. So it seems that you gotta take your biopsy and then stain it, and then we're gonna have our diagnosis done. Then if you want to know the just type, go and just do these, which is cytochemical and immune phenotyping. Okay, that makes sense. What are the expected findings in the required lab investigations? Okay, so bone marrow, as what we said, myeloid hypo. Okay, what are the expected findings that we're gonna find at those investigations, right? So bone marrow, we're gonna find myeloid hypercellularity. Hyper, because it is an acute myeloid leukemia, so there's definitely going to be just hypercellularity of those cells. With immature myeloblast cells, being more than 20%, normally it is less than 20%. So once it exceeds that number, we're dealing with an AML, right? Erythroid and megakaryocyte, which is the source of the platelets, going to be hypercellularity. So just the same as I told you, all of these going to be decreased unless the blast cells or myeloid cells. So erythroid and megakaryocytes, hypercellularity. Okay, makes sense. So the bone marrow, we're gonna find myeloid hypocellular, and there's going to be as well no erythroid or megakaryocytes at all. The bone marrow. So basically, the bone marrow, it consists of three type of cells: the megakaryocytes, erythroid, and the cell of the WBCs, which is one of them is the myeloblast. Okay, so basically 3 cells. We're gonna find only increase in one parameter, which is the myeloid cell, and decrease on the rest of the parameters. So it makes no sense. Okay, what about the myeloperoxidase stain? It's going to be positive since it is the acute myeloid leukemia. The other thing going to be an additional stain such Sudan plaque positive. Sudan plaque is a sort of stain that is applied to know whether it is an acute myeloid leukemia or not. So we've done it and we've got positive, so that's an AML. And as well, present of our rod. So our rod is sort of like something that is for the AML, the only presence with the AML, so there is going to be positive and positive here and there. So additional stains for AML. So we've done the basic golden standard stain is myeloperoxidase, and then some additional such Sudan plaque, and just to look for a rod. And both of them are positive, so just that makes us so certain about the diagnosis of AML. Okay, the patient is 50-year-old. Okay, what does I mean like? Okay, it makes like can confirm our diagnosis because of the age of the patient from the history. Okay, so those are the thing or the findings that we're gonna find at the investigation on the bone marrow, on the myeloperoxidase stain, and the history, right? Okay, that makes sense. Where's the expected clinical presentation of this condition? So the clinical presentation, there's going to be pancytopenia, organ infiltration. So pancytopenia due to the platelets and the RBCs, and organ infiltration due to the WBCs, for specific the blast cells. Okay, so pancytopenia, we have decrease in the mature WBCs, except the blast cells of the myeloid. Okay, because it is a case of AML. So decrease in mature WBCs, and then we have repeated infection. So that guy or that person going to have so many infections because he has some sort of weakened immune system, unfortunately. Because the bone marrow only concentrates on producing those blast cells of the myeloid. So we're going to find decrease on other parameters and other WBCs, and unfortunately he's going to have some sort of like a weakened immune system. The hemoglobin is going to be low, anemia, lethargy, breathlessness, blood palpitations, fatigue, and pallor, which are all going to be the signs and symptoms of the anemia. The pallor, fatigue, palpitations, breathlessness, and lethargy, all of these going to be present on the AML patient because of the anemia. So we often found a patient of AML having pallor, having fatigue, he couldn't do his works, he has some sort of palpitations, and he couldn't breathe well. Once he did a simple exercise, we're gonna be so exhausted though, so it's going to be something we have to appreciate. And lethargy, which means like he's going to be tired all the time, even he doesn't do any sort of thing. Okay, so this is about the anemia. What about the platelets going to be bleeding? Well, the platelets, we don't have, like, we have just thrombocytopenia, right? So they're not gonna do their job, which is going to be bleeding. So they're all the result of the pancytopenia, the infection, and those things that are related to anemia and bleeding as well. For the other parameter or the other thing, which is the organ infiltration of the blast cells, here we have lymphadenopathy, okay, because those blast cells are mature on the lymph nodes, right? So that's why do we have lymphadenopathy. So the patient of AML, unfortunately, he's gonna have some sort of lymphadenopathy or swollen like on those in his lymph nodes, or their lymph nodes enlarge their lymph nodes, so lymphadenopathy, and maybe like he's gonna develop some sort of pain in those lymph nodes around the neck or any sort of other region. Splenomegaly, well, just same reason, lymph nodes, spleen, all of these are places that the blood cells are grown there or completing their rest of life there, so just there, it is part of the immune system. Hepatomegaly, just the same, so hepatomegaly, splenomegaly, lymphadenopathy, all of those things we're gonna find on the AML patient, unfortunately. So this is the organ infiltration, the pancytopenia. So basically, once anybody asks you what are the clinical presentations that the AML patient going to be present with, there are two categories. The first one, the pancytopenia, which is going to be resultant infection, signs and symptoms of anemia, bleeding, and the organ infiltration, lymphadenopathy, splenomegaly, hepatomegaly. So these are the PEG categories that those clinical presentations going to be under. Okay, where's the expected diagnosis according to the lab and clinical data? It's going to be acute myeloid leukemia. So to recap what we've said, we've talked about the diagnosis, we've talked about the clinical presentation, and we talked about the findings that we're going to find on those investigations, the most important investigation that we're going to do, and the first one line to diagnose the patient with AML is going to be the bone marrow biopsy. The provisional diagnosis, or the primary, or the first, or the initial diagnosis is going to be acute leukemia, right? Then like AML. And we've interpreted the CVC, anemia, leukocytosis, thrombocytopenia, and the blood film. And that concludes our discussion for today, which is the AML. Thank you.